No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. Let that sink in. You think you're in control until a tone, a look, or a careless word pulls you into anger, anxiety, or self-doubt. 1 second of silence from someone, and your mind spins 1,000 painful stories. We've all been there. Reacting, overthinking, losing peace over things that don't deserve an ounce of our energy. But here's the truth. You are not reacting to reality. You are reacting to old wounds wearing a new mask. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. They didn't try to control the world. They trained their mind to remain unmoved by it. While others chased external validation, they chose quiet strength, a discipline forged by clarity, not chaos. This video is not about emotional suppression. It's about building emotional self-control that no one can touch. It's about learning how to respond without reacting, how to recognize emotional manipulation, and how to detach from triggers that used to own you. You are not weak. You are simply untrained. If you've ever felt exhausted from overthinking, drained by drama, or manipulated by someone who knew exactly how to push your buttons, this is for you. You're not alone. And more importantly, you're not powerless. Watch till the end. Reclaim the control you were never taught to use. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. This is where emotional freedom begins, and where triggers come to die. 1. Your lens is cracked by past pain. Someone looks at you the wrong way and your stomach twists. A delayed reply. A shift in tone. Suddenly you're spiraling, wondering what you did, what they meant, what's wrong with you. But pause for a moment. Was it what they did? Or was it what you thought it meant? You're not reacting to reality. You're reacting to the meaning your mind attached to it, filtered through a lens that's been cracked by years of quiet hurt. And that lens, left unexamined, becomes a weapon turned inward. Most people don't see clearly. They see through layers of old stories, unresolved shame, and unhealed moments. A joke feels like an insult. Silence feels like rejection. A glance becomes a judgment. It's not what's happening that breaks you. It's what your mind makes of it. And yet you rarely question that. You call it instinct, you call it truth, but it's neither. It's programming. It's your past holding the pen while your present bleeds. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's not philosophy. That's your everyday reaction. The anger you feel when dismissed, the pain you swallow when ignored. These are not moments. They are patterns, and they have nothing to do with today. They are echoes of yesterday wearing a new face. The Stoics understood this with brutal clarity. Epictetus taught, it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. You've been taught to react to what happens, but never trained to question how you see what happens. That's why you stay stuck, triggered by people who don't even know they touched a nerve, wounded by words that shouldn't carry that much weight, drained by interactions that feel like battles. But the battle isn't with them. It's with your lens. Imagine walking through life with a mirror instead of a windshield. Everything becomes a reflection of your fears. You don't just see the world, you project onto it. That's how someone's silence becomes proof that you're not worthy. That's how criticism becomes confirmation that you're not enough. Your brain is not showing you the truth. It's running an old script. A script that says you're not safe, you're not wanted, you're not enough. But none of that is real. It's just familiar. And your nervous system confuses familiar with true. What if you could rewrite that script? What if you stopped letting yesterday's pain dictate today's reactions? It starts with awareness. The next time your emotions spike, don't act, don't speak. Just pause. Breathe once, maybe twice. Then ask the question most people never ask. What story am I telling myself right now? Not what happened, not who said what. But what interpretation do you just accept without resistance? Because that's where the real trigger lives. Not outside you, but inside your framing. The power of emotional detachment doesn't come from being cold. It comes from being clear. When you stop absorbing everything as personal, you begin to protect your mental clarity like a fortress. That's not denial. That's discipline. You don't detach to feel less. You detach to see more, to choose your reaction instead of being owned by it. And yes, some moments will still hit hard, but when they do, you'll no longer crumble. Because now you understand that your lens is not the world, it's just glass. And glass can be cleaned, it can be replaced, it can be made stronger. So before you react again, stop and check your lens. Ask if you're looking through hurt or through truth. Ask if your reaction is yours or your past's. Because of that moment of awareness, that is your escape from the loop. That is your first real act of freedom. 2. Calm people are trained, not lucky. Some people don't flinch. You insult them and they blink slower. You raise your voice and they breathe deeper. You try to provoke and they stay still. So still it unsettles you. It's not luck. It's not their nature. It's training. And most people never get it because they've spent their whole life chasing speed, not stillness. They've been taught that fast equals strong, that reacting fast means you're sharp, that emotion equals authenticity. But the truth is, fast minds burn out. Fast reactions are predictable, and emotional reflexes aren't proof of depth. They're evidence of programming. The world wants you to be reactive because reactivity makes you controllable. Advertisers want you to be impulsive. Politicians want you triggered. Toxic people want you emotionally exposed. And so you were never taught how to hold your inner space, only how to defend it badly. You weren't taught to pause. You were taught to lash out, to prove a point, to defend your pride. But every time you react without thought, you reinforce weakness. You tell your nervous system, I have no filter. I follow the feeling. The Stoics didn't suppress emotion. They trained it. Marcus Aurelius didn't rise above betrayal by accident. He practiced the pause like a warrior sharpens his blade. Because the moment between trigger and response is where all power lives. That moment is your only chance to step out of the loop. Everything after that is habit. And most people are slaves to habit. But the ones who learn to pause, they become untouchable because they no longer hand over their power to random circumstances or careless words. They don't explode when disrespected. They don't crumble under tension. They breathe, they wait, they choose. Calm is a decision. It's not about not feeling. It's about not feeding. The man who can feel rage rise and still keep his tongue is not empty. He's full of quiet control. The woman who senses judgment and still chooses grace isn't passive. She's sharp enough to separate reality from her own ego's need to defend. That kind of emotional strength isn't sold in books or earned in arguments. It's built in silence, in discomfort, in the heat of restraint. So next time your buttons get pushed, don't ask, why do they always do this to me? Ask, what inside me still lets them get access? That shift rewrites the script. Because if your peace can be taken, it means it was never anchored. If your emotions hijack your logic in 5 seconds, then logic was never in control to begin with. The pause is your reprogramming. It breaks the automation. And like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it. Start small. When your phone buzzes with a passive-aggressive text, don't reply. Breathe. Let the silence stretch until the urge to justify dies off. That's training. When you hear a disrespectful comment, let the air hang a second longer than you normally would. That's training. When your heart starts pounding and your old pattern tells you to speak before you think, don't. That's training. You don't need to prove your strength. You need to contain it. Because real power isn't loud. It's not explosive. It's not reactive. Real power is silent, selective, and focused. It's the ability to respond, not react. To stay rooted, not pulled. To breathe through the storm without becoming part of it. Calm people aren't lucky. They've trained harder than you realize. And the good news is, so can you. Not all at once, but one pause at a time. One trigger met with stillness. One thought is interrupted before it becomes behavior. And eventually, what used to shake you barely moves you. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started choosing. 3. Relationships reveal who controls your emotions. Imagine walking around with a control panel strapped to your chest. Each button is labeled with one of your triggers. Shame, anger, insecurity, jealousy. And the people around you? They don't need to hit hard. They just need to know where to press. A single look, a carefully placed silence, a half-joking insult, and suddenly you're spiraling. You call it chemistry, you call it conflict. But what it really is programming, not theirs, yours. Toxic people don't need power. They just need access, and access is given, not taken. If someone can make you explode, break down, or question your worth with a single phrase, they're not powerful. You're exposed. They don't have control. You've left the door wide open, because somewhere along the way, you confused emotion with connection. You thought intensity meant importance. You mistook emotional chaos for love, attention, or truth. So now, anyone who knows how to push the right button gets a free pass to run your nervous system. That's not control, that's surrender. And most people have surrendered without even realizing it. You think they triggered you. No, they just activated something you never secured. The Stoics warned us not to hand our peace over like it's spare change. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But we don't live that way. We train people how to manipulate us by how predictably we react. The more reactive you are, the more programmable you become. The louder your buttons, the easier you are to control. Now, picture what happens when you unplug the control panel. Someone says something sharp. You breathe. Nothing lights up. No reaction. No justification. No twitch of defense. Just presence. That silence doesn't make you cold. It makes you unbreakable. Because true power isn't needing to respond, it's being free not to. You don't owe your emotions to everyone who demands them. Not every insult deserves your correction. Not every provocation deserves your energy. That's not suppression. That's precision. It's choosing what enters your inner world and what dies outside its walls. The mistake isn't in feeling. The mistake is letting others dictate what you feel, when you feel it, and how intensely it takes you over. A Stoic doesn't stop feeling. He trains what reaches him. He guards the entry point, not with armor, but with awareness. And once you become aware of your patterns, the entire dynamic flips. You stop asking, "Why do they always do this to me?" and start asking, "Why do I keep leaving the door open?" That's the beginning of mastery. Not of others, but of self. In practical terms, start small. The next time someone pushes you, verbally, emotionally, passively, pause. Notice the urge to respond, to defend, to lash out. Then don't. Let the tension build. Feel it. Observe it. But hold your ground. What you're doing is building a psychological firewall, one moment of control at a time. And over time, the triggers lose their voltage. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Reactivity is not your identity. It's your untrained reflex. And like any reflex, it can be reprogrammed. But you must first admit who has the remote, who gets your attention, your outrage, your overthinking. Then, step by step, you take it back. You stop broadcasting your emotional buttons to the world like a blueprint for manipulation. You withdraw your peace from people who never deserved it. You stop asking others to respect your boundaries and start enforcing them with silence. Because the strongest man in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who sees the game, knows the trigger, and chooses not to dance. The more unfazed you become, the more powerful you are. Not in domination, but in direction. No one can control what no longer reacts. And once you stop handing out your peace, you become the one who owns the room without ever needing to prove it. 4. Master the pause, starve the drama. Drama doesn't feed on facts. It feeds on your reaction. It lives and breathes only if you fuel it. Without your emotional fire, it dies in silence. But most people can't resist. The moment something feels off, an attitude shift, a subtle jab, a tone too sharp, they strike back. Words fly, emotions flare, and peace is forfeited for the illusion of control. They think speaking fast, defending fast, and reacting fast proves they're not weak. But what it really proves is this: they are not in control. They are still programmable. Every drama needs a co-star. The problem is most people audition without realizing it. You're not dragged into chaos. You walk into it because your body has been conditioned to seek emotional payoff. That small surge of energy when you clap back, that mental replay after the argument, that needs to be right. All of it creates a cycle. A loop where reactivity feels like strength but leaves you drained, bitter, and no closer to peace. This isn't just emotional fatigue. It's misdirected power. The Stoics didn't escape the noise. They just refused to echo it. They mastered the pause, not to suppress what they felt, but to reclaim the space between stimulus and response. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." That proof doesn't come from rage, it comes from restraint. The world teaches you to act fast, but wisdom teaches you to pause, because in that pause you see clearly. And clarity is lethal to drama. Drama relies on urgency. It wants you to be blind, impulsive, and loud. It thrives on immediacy. So when you delay the reaction, even by a breath, you break the loop. You signal to your mind, we don't do chaos on command anymore. That single act rewires the system. Instead of being hijacked by every insult or conflict, you begin to filter, and that filter becomes your shield. A shield not made of ego or pride, but of grounded awareness. Let's make this practical. When someone says something disrespectful, don't answer immediately. Let the silence thicken. Let it expose them, not you. That gap is where drama collapses. When your mind starts building stories about why they said what they said, stop. Return to breath. Return to facts. Not feelings. Not assumptions. When a conversation turns heated, lower your voice instead of raising it. That shift confuses the script. It signals you're no longer available for emotional bait. You're not cold for refusing to react. You're focused. And that focus protects your energy like a vault. You're not distant. You're disciplined. You've stopped giving free access to your emotional dashboard. And yes, people may not understand. Some will call you passive. Others will say you don't care. But their confusion is not your concern, because what looks like indifference to them is actually the highest form of power, stillness that doesn't need a stage. The problem isn't the world, it's the belief that you must engage with everything it throws your way. But you don't. Not every situation deserves a statement. Not every insult deserves a rebuttal. Not every conflict deserves your character. The mind that pauses chooses. The one that reacts repeats. And if you're stuck in endless conflict, it's not because life is chaotic. It's because you haven't mastered the pause. Real growth is silent. It's found in the moment you almost spoke but didn't. The message you almost sent but deleted. The tension you almost felt but let fade instead. These are not losses. They're upgrades. Each moment of restraint is a brick in your fortress. Not of avoidance, but of self-command. So if you're tired of the noise, stop feeding it. Let it starve in the silence you've trained to hold. Because nothing threatens chaos more than a man who can pause and still stay whole. 5. Silence is strength in a noisy world. Scrolling has become training. You're not just reading posts or watching clips, you're being taught how to react. Loud equals bold. Instant response equals relevance. Outrage equals engagement. And if you stay quiet, the world calls you weak. But that noise isn't power, it's bait. And most people bite because their self-worth has been rewired to depend on attention. They think silence means they're losing. But silence, when chosen, is the most calculated form of resistance. In a room full of chaos, the calm one commands attention. Not because they fight harder, but because they don't flinch. Not because they're cold, but because they've trained themselves to stay still while others scramble. And yet, our culture rewards the opposite. Social media thrives on impulsive emotion. Every algorithm is a machine built to exploit your lack of stillness. It doesn't care about your peace. It feeds on your triggers. Every like, every angry comment, every comparison, each one is a subtle invasion of your emotional clarity. You start out curious and end up drained. Not by content, but by the reactions it pulls out of you. The Stoics understood this dynamic before screens existed. Epictetus warned, if someone provokes you, realize that it is your own opinion that provokes you. They didn't escape the world. They engaged it with filters made of principle. They weren't passive. They were precise. They didn't run from noise. They refused to carry it. You don't have to respond to everything that touches you. You don't have to prove yourself every time someone doubts you. You don't need to fire back at every slight, every dig, every passive attack. That reflex isn't strong. It's dependency. When your peace requires approval, you'll never own it. But when you start holding silence like a weapon, deliberate, intentional, you begin to take back control from the world's noise. Next time you feel pulled to react, stop. Notice where in your body you feel the urge to speak, to prove, to explain. Let the discomfort sit. Don't rush to erase it. Just witness how deeply your identity depends on being seen, heard, and validated. And then ask yourself, am I choosing this or am I performing it? Because most people don't respond to the world, they perform for it. They play roles written by culture, expectation, and fear. But silence strips that away. It forces the ego to sit still. That's why so few can handle it. They fill silence with noise because they mistake it for weakness. But silence isn't absence. It's clarity. It's the refusal to drown your thinking in noise you didn't create. It's the reset button your nervous system never learned to press. It's the boundary between what happened and what I choose to carry. You don't owe the world your reactions. You owe yourself a clear mind, and a clear mind isn't built in conversations, it's built in stillness. That doesn't mean you never speak. It means you've mastered the difference between what deserves your voice and what just wants to steal your energy. Because once you give energy to the wrong thing, the right thing starves. Your peace doesn't get destroyed, it gets distracted. So train your silence like you train a muscle. Let it hold when your ego itches to defend. Let it breathe when your mind screams for validation. Let it stretch across moments when drama demands you play your part. Because every time you do that, you grow quieter, sharper, stronger. Not because the world got better, but because you stopped dancing to its chaos. And when someone asks why you didn't react, just smile. Let them guess. Let them misunderstand. Let them call you distant, cold, arrogant. What they can't see is that your silence isn't absence, it's armor. And what they can't touch is already beyond them. 6. Real detachment, focused living. A storm doesn't destroy the mountain, it just passes. But most people live like leaves instead, tossed in every direction by every wind that blows. They call it caring, they call it being real or passionate. But what it really is untrained focus. When everything touches you, nothing gets your full attention. And in a world built to overwhelm your mind, the greatest strength you can build is the ability to detach, not out of fear, but out of intention. People misunderstand detachment. They think it means coldness, numbness, apathy. But real detachment isn't about withdrawing from life. It's about knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. The Stoics didn't reject the world. They rejected its hold over their peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That's not just reflection, that's the direction. Because if you spend your day reacting to everything, your life becomes a battlefield. But when you train your mind to choose what gets in, you stop bleeding energy into things that have no place inside you. You can't live with clarity if your emotions leak everywhere. Every notification, every disagreement, every news headline, every pointless argument, each one chips away at your mental stillness. You tell yourself you're staying informed, staying connected, staying alert. But really, you're staying distracted. And distraction is the silent killer of peace. Because it doesn't feel like chaos, it feels like movement, until you realize you're always in motion, but never in control. Detachment is not a wall, it's a gate. It doesn't keep everything out, it filters what comes in. It allows you to stay present in your values while the world spins with opinions, noise, and demands. It makes your presence precise. You show up where you're needed, not where you're baited. You speak when it's meaningful, not when you're provoked. You rest without guilt. You walk away without explanation. That's not weakness, that's discipline. And it needs to be trained. Start with your digital life. Unfollow accounts that hijack your mood. Turn off notifications that train your brain to jump. Protect your mental space the same way you'd protect your home. You wouldn't leave your front door open for strangers to walk in and dump trash on the floor. Yet that's exactly what happens when you let every thought, every opinion, every trigger waltz into your mind unchecked. Then move into your conversations. Pay attention to who drains you, not with volume, but with vibration. People who always need a reaction. People who always steer the topic back to chaos, fear, or gossip. You don't owe them your full bandwidth. You owe yourself a clear lane to move forward. Not every relationship needs confrontation. Some only need distance. Quietly, firmly, without drama. That's real power. And in moments of stress, bring your focus back to what's yours. Not the event, not the person, but your response. Ask, am I being pulled or am I choosing? That question is a blade. It cuts through the noise, and the more you ask it, the sharper it gets. Over time, you stop reacting to the world and start responding from your center. That shift is subtle, but everything changes. You stop explaining your peace. You stop defending your standards. You stop overthinking things that never deserved your thoughts in the first place. And suddenly, the things that used to trigger you don't even register. Because you're no longer everywhere. You're exactly where you need to be. Focused living starts when you reclaim your mind from the world's demands. And that reclamation begins with detachment. Not to escape life, but to finally live it on your terms. Quiet, directed, unbothered, anchored, not in the absence of storms, but in the choice not to be moved by every gust of wind. 7. You're not passive. You're powerful. You don't owe anyone your reaction, but most people don't know how to exist without one. They've been trained to measure presence by volume, strength by outrage, power by emotional fire. So when you don't flinch, don't argue, don't explain, they assume you're weak. But silence doesn't mean surrender. Stillness doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've learned that not every battle is worth your clarity. And if you've built enough of it, you start realizing this. Real power doesn't perform. It doesn't beg. It doesn't announce. It just holds. We live in a world that worships overreaction. Social media thrives on it. Conversations spiral from it. Relationships drown in it. Somewhere along the way, people began to confuse chaos with connection. They think being deeply involved in every emotional spike proves they care. But it doesn't. It just proves they're owned by whatever moves around them. They mistake movement for meaning, noise for necessity. But when everything triggers you, nothing guides you. The Stoics didn't teach apathy. They taught emotional mastery. They didn't tell you to suppress what you feel. They told you to own it. Socrates said, "No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training." But the same is true of the mind. You weren't meant to be ruled by your emotional system. You were meant to train it, to know when to act and when to hold, to know the difference between urgent and important, between noise and truth. When someone tries to provoke you and you don't react, they call you passive. Let them. They want a show. They want your energy. They want the access you used to give away for free. But once you stop performing, they lose their script. They don't know what to do with someone who no longer needs to be seen, heard, or validated to feel solid. What feels like detachment to them is actually inner discipline. You are not colder. You are clearer. Start observing your reactions like they're someone else's. That urge to reply instantly, that sharp pull to defend yourself, that rising heat when someone misunderstands you. All of those are invitations, and you don't have to accept. Every moment you decline that invitation, you reclaim a piece of yourself that used to be outsourced to approval or conflict. That's not passivity. That's presence. That's being rooted in a storm without letting the wind determine your worth. And this doesn't mean you never speak. It means your voice becomes rare and deliberate. You don't waste your breath on battles that don't build you. You don't lend your attention to noise disguised as urgency. You don't burn your peace to warm people who never bring fire of their own. You walk in with your peace intact, and if it's not honored, you leave with it undisturbed. That's not avoidance. That's power management. Next time you feel misunderstood, don't rush to explain. Let your clarity be misunderstood. Let your calm be misread. That tension, that's where your training kicks in. Because not reacting when you could, that's not weakness. That's strength sharpened through restraint. That's knowing that the more you respond to nonsense, the more it defines you. You're not passive. You've simply grown past the need to prove yourself every time someone tries to provoke you. You've stopped offering emotional proof to people who haven't earned your attention. And what they don't understand, they'll label. Let them. Labels can't reach where they no longer have access. So the next time someone says you've changed, nod quietly, because yes, you have. You've stopped handing out your peace like candy. You've stopped bleeding your focus into empty fires. You've stopped performing for a world that mistakes chaos for power. And in that quiet refusal, you've become untouchable. You have more control than you think. Not over the world, not over others, but over how you respond, how you think, how you hold your peace. That is the quiet foundation of all emotional self-mastery. It doesn't happen overnight, but it begins the moment you stop reacting and start observing. What you've heard today is not theory, it is a path. Each idea, from mastering the pause to rewiring your emotional lens, is a habit you build. Detachment is not distance, it is discipline. Silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Calm is not the absence of emotion, it is the strength to direct it. Start with the smallest step, one pause before you speak, one breath before you respond, one choice not to absorb what was never yours to carry. These are not just mental exercises, they are acts of reclaiming your identity. Over time, they form a mind that cannot be manipulated, a presence that cannot be shaken, and a peace that no one can steal. The Stoics believed the highest form of power was inner freedom. That is still true today. In a world that rewards outrage and overreaction, the person who stays still becomes unshakable. Let that be you. And if this message speaks to where you are in life, share your story in the comments. What used to trigger you but no longer holds power? What moment of silence saved your peace? Someone else might need your clarity to begin their own. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about practicing presence every day, every moment, until one day the world still spins, but you remain solid, clear, and untouchable. That is Stoic clarity. That is your edge, and that is yours to train.